As a number one overall pick, Baker Mayfield has never come close to a Super Bowl. On the other hand, Troy Aikman, another number one pick, has multiple Super Bowl wins.
What's your sense on Baker Mayfield and
I
his
like
ability?
him a lot. The guy can really play.
Ironically, Baker's career quarterback rating is actually better than Troy Aikman's. People have called Baker a bust, but was it maybe just his bad luck to go to an awful organization? In NFL history, there are only 6 quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall who won a Super Bowl as a starter. And Baker Mayfield's career rating is better than almost every one of them. He's even taken that awful Browns franchise to places they haven't been for 26 years. So how underrated is Baker Mayfield actually? Baker has always had a chip on his shoulder. And you don't need to look any further than his unlikely rise in college. He was under-recruited and wound up being a walk-on at Texas Tech. After an injury to starting quarterback Michael Brewer, Baker was named the Week 1 starter, becoming the first player in FBS history to start a season opener as a walk-on freshman. After an impressive freshman year at Texas Tech, he transferred to Oklahoma, and all 3 years at Oklahoma, Baker led the conference in completion percentage, and twice he led in touchdown passes. His sophomore year, he was 4th in Heisman voting, and his junior year, he was 3rd in Heisman voting. In both those years, he was actually right behind Deshaun Watson, but more on that later. In his senior year, behind his 70.5 completion percentage, 43 passing touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions, he finally won the Heisman. Baker Mayfield's excellent college career earned him being the first overall pick to the Cleveland Browns. Previously, the 2016 Browns had gone 1-15, and the 2017 Browns just went 0-16. But Baker was somehow able to play well on this shaky team. He passed for over 3,700 yards, 27 TDs, and had a 63.8% completion rate his rookie season. He even finished second behind Saquon Barkley for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But the Browns only went 7-8-1, and the franchise's instability reared its ugly head when they fired head coach Hugh Jackson halfway through the season, replaced him with Greg Williams, and then decided to pick a new coach for 2019. The infamous Freddie Kitchens year.
Freddie Kitchens, we understand that it is sort of a work in progress. He was a running backs coach a year ago at this time. Will he figure this out?
Before they fire him? I mean, come on.
Somehow, he stuck around through the entire miserable 6-10 season, and due to his poor coaching, Baker regressed. His touchdowns went down, his interceptions went up, and he had his worst completion percentage of his career. Baker took a ton of blame for the team's lack of success.
My gosh, you've got, I don't get it. I'd love to be an offensive coordinator here. If I have Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, and this Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I know he's overrated as hell, but
Whoa!
By 2020, Baker was entering his 3rd year with his 4th head coach. He had no stability so far, but that finally changed when they hired Kevin Stefanski. Baker was balling again. Single-digit interceptions on the season, increased his touchdowns and completion percentage, and most importantly, the Browns were playing winning football. They made it to the playoffs at 11-5, something the franchise rarely did. They had to play their division rival and big brother, the Pittsburgh Steelers, so people expected a beatdown. But then the Browns did something they hadn't done in 26 years.
Inside the 10, and Jarvis Landry.
They finally won a playoff game. It had been over a quarter of a century, but they finally did it, and in convincing fashion, scoring 48 points on Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Baker was riding high and about to play the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs in the next round. The Chiefs led 13-3, but Baker kept the Browns in the game, delivering timely passes. Nearing the end of the first half, the Browns were knocking on the door, ready to score.
The 5 out. As they hit at the 5 to Higgins. He lost the football as he reached for the pylon, and they ruin a touchback.
But when Dan Sorensen, nicknamed Dirty Dan, hit Higgins, it was helmet-to-helmet contact. There should have been a flag, giving the Browns the ball on the 1-yard line, and instead, the refs wiped out the inevitable 7 points and awarded the Chiefs the ball. A game where the Browns only lost 22-17. What could have been if the right call had been made against the Chiefs for once. Still, with that great season and close playoff loss against the Chiefs, you'd think Cleveland was ready to invest in Baker long term. But the Browns saw more value elsewhere. Baker had Stefanski returning next year, so the team was expected to benefit from continuity. But this would not be the case. The Browns had a 6-8 record in 2021, which might have been due to Baker arrogantly playing most of the season with a shoulder injury. Another interesting development was looming on the horizon. Deshaun Watson just had a stellar 2020 season, with a quarterback rating of 112.4. Tied for 16th best QB rating in a season ever. He missed the entire 2021 season with his infamous personal issues, but after seeing Baker's mid-performance, the owner of the Browns was quick to lose faith in him. Inside reports also indicated that Baker was too immature for being a team leader. So Cleveland traded away 3 years of first-round picks and more to the Texans for Deshaun Watson in what's now being labeled as one of the worst trades in NFL history. When Baker saw the writing on the wall, he requested a trade, so he was sent to the Carolina Panthers. Baker was out. He left an unstable franchise in Cleveland to head to another unstable franchise in Charlotte.
Briefly go back to overrated as hell, if I may here. You believe Baker Mayfield is overrated?
Absolutely. Look, I bought into the dang hype.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, but not to the point where everybody's saying he's going to be the league MVP.
What are you seeing that he's not doing right now? What's he doing wrong?
What's he doing right, Grady? Because I'm going to look at this. Here's a guy right now that is a one-read guy, and then he's going to improvise.
Baker's time in Carolina nearly killed his chances to be a long-term NFL QB. It was the worst stint of his career. He went 1-5 in 6 games, threw 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and just as many headbutts. His poor performance got him benched and later waived by the Panthers. But later on in the same season, once Matt Stafford got injured, the Rams needed a quarterback, so they took a chance on Baker. He flew to LA and had 2 days to prepare for a Thursday night game with a brand new team. With several receivers Baker didn't even know the names of, he found himself down against the Raiders 16-10, less than 2 minutes left in the game, on his own 2-yard line. What he did on this drive may have single-handedly saved his career.
To the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown.
He won the game for LA without even having a California ID yet.
Welcome to LA.
Oh man,
Welcome to Hollywood.
That's how you make
What's
an
your
introduction.
dream?
It's been a wild 48 hours.
Oh my God. You just walked up here and you go, what just happened?
I have no idea.
He showed that he could lead a team and win in crunch time. This generated some interest from the Tampa Bay Bucks, where Baker soon signed a 1-year contract. He had an excellent 2023 season with the Buccaneers, throwing for over 4,000 yards for the first time ever, along with 28 touchdowns. His quarterback rating was 94.6 on the season, and they even beat the Eagles in the first round. The next round, they lost a hard-fought game to the Lions, but it was clear Tampa Bay had found their successor to Tom Brady. But it's the start of the 2024 season that has the fans excited. Through the first 5 games, Baker Mayfield's quarterback rating was 112.2. The season's far from over. That number will change, but this rating would have Baker tied for 18th all-time with the 2016 Tom Brady Super Bowl winning season and the 2014 Aaron Rodgers MVP season. That's how good Baker's start has been for this season. Ironically, it's just behind Deshaun Watson's quarterback rating of 112.4 in the 2020 season. But let's compare his entire career to other prominent QBs. Baker has faced tons of criticism, but he has some career numbers that will surprise you. Some of these stats even put him higher than Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Georgia.
I don't care.
Baker took Georgia to 2 overtimes.
That's great. Baker took him to 2 overtimes.
And Georgia was loaded.
That's great. Baker went number 1 overall.
Yep.
He's been on 4 teams since then, or whatever the number is.
He had a good year last year.
Okay, he played well. Let's not turn it into something that is more than what it is. I like Baker too.
One of the most important numbers is the quarterback rating. Those numbers fluctuate year to year, but it's commonly accepted that if a quarterback has a career rating of 90 or higher, he's great. If his career rating is 95 or higher, he is elite. Josh Allen's career rating is 92.7. Patrick Mahomes' career rating, 102.9. What is Baker's rating? 89.4. The numbers alone tell you he's nearly great. His rating has only been going up since he's been in Tampa. a team with solid pieces around him. Though he had good seasons with the Browns, the coaching carousel kept spinning, and Baker suffered. Having his worst season under Freddie Kitchens with a rating of 78.8, he was dealt to the dysfunctional Panthers, then played the journeyman role heading to the Rams, achieving his second worst QB rating of 79 overall that year. Baker rarely got a fair chance in those 2 seasons. So what if we removed them from his career QB rating? What would be his number then? 93.6, higher than Josh Allen's. Not to mention his numbers are better than you realize. 141 touchdowns and 76 interceptions, with his career percentage for throwing an interception per pass attempt at just 2.6. Rule of thumb with interception percentage: be as close to Rodgers as possible, the leader in NFL history with 1.4. The other rule: stay as far away from the interception leader in NFL history, Brett Favre, at 3.3. In fact, Baker's 2.6% sits firmly between Drew Brees' 2.3 and Peyton Manning's 2.7. Those 2 Super Bowl winners are good company to be in. Speaking of Super Bowl winners, of all the quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall, only 6 have ever won a Super Bowl as a starter: Jim Plunkett, Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, Troy Aikman, Eli Manning, and Peyton Manning. And Baker Mayfield's career quarterback rating is better than all but one of them. Let's set aside Plunkett and Bradshaw, as they played in an era when most QBs had lower ratings. Let's compare him to the quarterbacks who played in the 90s or beyond. Elway, 79.9. Aikman, 81.6. Eli, 84.1. Baker, 89.4. Peyton, 96.5. Even if we removed the worst 2 seasons for everyone, the ranking stays the same. Elway 81.5, Aikman 84.6, Eli 85.8, Baker 93.6, Peyton 99.4. Those are all Hall of Famers who have won multiple Super Bowls with more stable organizations, better teams, and star receivers. Peyton had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. Eli had Plaxico, Elway had Shannon Sharp, and Aikman had Michael Irvin. Other than the limited and failed experiment with Odell, who has Baker had? That is, until now with Mike Evans. Maybe Baker Mayfield isn't as clutch as those Hall of Famers. Maybe he doesn't quite have the same winning DNA, but the numbers suggest he's a very good QB in the league today, trending towards great. Cleveland never should have given up on him. Now they are tied to Deshaun Watson, who was great in the past, but now trending towards awful. Tampa Bay is lucky to have Baker, and Baker is lucky to have Tampa Bay. Now that he's in a stable situation where the franchise believes in him, Baker is on a real path to greatness, and maybe even a Super Bowl. Thanks for watching. If you liked our video, be sure to subscribe and check out our other videos on the screen.